alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How's everyone doing today? Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulihi al-kareem, amma ba'd. فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا زدنا علما. أهلا وسهلا مرحبا. May Allah accept the coming of each one of you. May Allah reward you for your efforts. May Allah put barakah in your intentions and barakah in what we intend to do today. And may we benefit from the coming month, inshallah. Let me ask you this question. Who's excited about Ramadan? Are you excited about Ramadan? Alhamdulillah, everyone's excited. Many are excited. Many are looking forward to it, alhamdulillah. And then there's some who have mixed feelings of joy and happiness, as well as feelings of sadness. And the reason why I say sadness is because we may feel that it's not going to be the same Ramadan as before. Ramadan this year is going to be a very different Ramadan compared to the Ramadans that we have experienced before in our life. You know, and this feeling of sadness because we won't have that same connection with the masajid, the same community feeling of everyone coming together for collective worship. Now, no doubt, we're going through some unprecedented times, and most of us may have never experienced this before in our life. When the whole world is in a state of lockdown, sometimes a person wonders, why is this happening? Why this change? When are things going to go back to normal? Now we must remember that there is a wisdom in whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. There's some point of reflection, there's some lesson. What all of us are experiencing right now is a huge change that has affected each one of us. But isn't change a part of life anyways? Change is a part of everything in this universe. There are changes in seasons. There are changes in day and night, changes in temperature, changes in heat and cold, changes in our personal lives and small things. There are changes in family matters. There are changes at a societal level. Sometimes change brings hardship, and sometimes change brings ease. Now, the current change that we're going through is a difficult change for all of us. But why does Allah make us go through this change? Why does Allah make us go through this change? It's so that we bring about a change in ourselves. The lesson to learn is that we need to analyze ourselves. We should bring about a positive change within ourselves because we have this time now to think. We have this time to reflect on ourselves and our lives. You know, the shortcomings in our lives, which we wanted to make up for. And we were hoping that if we had the time, we would do this and we would do that. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the time. Each person has been given some more time. And so we should spend this time to build ourselves, to build our iman, to build our akhlaq, to build our knowledge. And all those things that we kept wishing for and hoping for, that we would do them if we had the time, well, now is the time we should focus on those things. And wherever we find ourselves in hardship, wherever we find ourselves in difficulty, we should turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the most important thing that we can do in the situation that we find ourselves in right now. This lockdown that we're experiencing right now, everyone, no matter where you are around the world, the most important thing that we do is to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is to strengthen our connection with Allah. And whether we are faced with a small hardship or a big hardship, turn only to Him, because only He has the solution to every problem. You know, when the thought comes to you, when will things go back to how they were? Turn to Allah. When you worry about how to spend Ramadan, turn to Allah. When you get anxious by reading the news and hearing about what people are saying, turn to Allah. Make dua to Him, remember Him, and ask Him for the solution. Ask Him for safety. Ask Him for security. And we should have full certainty, full conviction that all benefit and loss is in the hands of Allah. If someone is worried about their finances, they've lost their job, or their business is down because of the current situation, Allah has the solution. If someone is mentally disturbed, Allah has the solution. If a person is emotionally disturbed, Allah has a solution to that as well. So turn to Him. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can remove every and any problem. And remember that if Allah wills to bestow His mercy on you, there's no one who can stop that. But what is needed is to strengthen our connection with Him. So take this situation in a positive light, even though, yes, this Ramadan may not be like the ones before, but you have the choice to make it as productive as you want to. So don't think of what you cannot do. Think of what you can do, the opportunities that you still have, and avail of those opportunities. So this Ramadan, grow and learn as a family. This Ramadan, make renewed intentions. Work on building good habits and destroying bad habits. And most importantly, strengthen your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And really, all praise belongs to Him, and we cannot praise Him enough. We cannot thank Him enough. The only words that we can say is Alhamdulillah, that it is such a huge favor. It is a huge mercy of Allah that He has allowed you to witness another Ramadan. He has chosen you for this huge blessing, so be grateful for this blessing. Be positive, be hopeful, trust your Lord, and strive through the tests and trials so that you can earn His pleasure, so that you can draw closer to Him. So through these difficult situations, Allah gives us the perfect opportunity, and that is the month of Ramadan. Because naturally in this month, we up all our good deeds. We increase our righteous actions. So inshallah, we will briefly go through right now the purpose and the objective of the month of Ramadan, and how we can maximize our time and ajr and reward and benefit during this month. But first, let's listen to the recitation of ayah number 183 to 185 of Surah Al-Baqarah. So we'll listen to the recitation, and then inshallah we'll go through these ayat and see what guidance Allah is giving to us, what Allah is teaching us about the month of Ramadan, about fasting, about the objectives, so that inshallah we can make this Ramadan a productive one. Tilawa.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O you who have believed. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Rabbul Alameen, is addressing the believers. Allah is addressing you and I, and He is informing us, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ, decreed upon you is fasting. Fasting has been decreed upon you. In Arabic, the word Sawm is used, and also the word Siyam. In this ayah, Siyam has been used, and there's a slight difference between Sawm and Siyam. Sawm is related to fasting from speech. Sawm is to refrain from talking, to refrain from speaking, like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Maryam in Surah Maryam, ayah number 26. فَكُلِي وَاشْرَبِي وَقَرِّي عَيْنًا فَإِمَّا تَرَيِنَّ مِنَ الْبَشَرِ أَحَدًا فَقُولِي إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنْسِيًّا. So eat and drink and be contented. And if you see from among humanity anyone, say, indeed, I have vowed to the most merciful abstention. So I will not speak today to any man. So Sawm is imsak anil kalam. Sawm is to refrain from speaking, refrain from talking. But when the word siyam is used, then siyam is to abstain from doing something, anything, whether it is eating, drinking, walking, talking, or anything else, as long as it is something that a person's nafs is inclined towards. And that is why there are two kinds of fasts. There is a general fast, in which a person abstains from eating and drinking, and then there's a specific fast, in which a person refrains from all those things which Allah has forbidden. And this is not just related to the stomach, that you refrain from eating and drinking, but also the eyes, that you refrain your eyes from looking at something that you're not supposed to look at. Similarly, the ears, the tongue, as a matter of fact, all parts of the body, where a person stops at the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in other words, this month of Ramadan that is coming, the fasting that Allah has made obligatory on us, in this, Allah has not just stopped us from eating and drinking, but He has stopped us from all those evil things that are harmful to us. And this is indicated by the word siyam. You know, when we fall sick, for example, we leave all those things that in normal days we enjoy so much, we find them so delicious, so scrumptious, but we stop eating those things. Why? It's because the doctor advises us to cut down on those foods, to not eat them. So no matter how much we enjoy them, we leave them because they're harmful to us. And instead we start taking bitter medicine, which becomes a source of health for us. Now, this is based on human knowledge. It's based on human well-wishing for another human to relieve him from some pain, from some harm. But here, Allah Rabbul Izzah, the one who created us, formed us, fashioned us, shaped us, guided us, is telling us to stay away from certain things. Why? not because it is of benefit to him, but because it is for our own benefit. Allah wishes to save us from such illnesses that are destructive for us, which are harmful for our dunya and also for our akhirah. And this is the reason why Allah has not just made fasting an obligation, but He has also made it an act of worship, so that we happily accept it, we happily embrace it. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have believed, kutiba alaykum as-siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum. Decreed upon you is fasting as it was decreed upon those before you. Fasting was prescribed on all of the nations before the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The legislations were different. Many of the laws were different, but many of the laws were similar as well. Many laws were common or are common between us and the previous nations. Yani, this restriction on you in the form of fasting is not something new. It has been there from the beginning. And you being the wasat ummah, you being the midmost community, the last nation on whom the deen is completed, it is also fard on you, just the way it was fard on those before you. And what's the benefit of this? What's the benefit of fasting? What's the purpose? What's the objective? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may become righteous, so that you may develop the fear and consciousness of Allah, so that you may save yourself from sins. Because fasting curbs the desires that prompt sins. There are some restrictions that are imposed on us by the deen. They're from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's some that you have to impose on yourself so that you can save yourself from the punishment, from Allah's anger. And that's the meaning of the word taqwa. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Tattaqun comes from taqwa. So this ayah is clearly telling us the objective of fasting. And that is so that you develop the quality of taqwa. And taqwa literally means to guard, to protect. It's basically to take protection from the punishment of Allah. And that's by doing what He has commanded and abstaining from what He has forbidden. So taqwa isn't just fear. It's actually the attempt to want to protect yourself from those things that Allah does not like. Taqwa is the strength to protect yourself from those things that are harmful for you, that are disastrous for you. So that want to protect yourself from that is taqwa. And this is in all things. Taqwa is in everything. It's not just some things, and it's not just only in the month of Ramadan that a person stays away from food and drink and sexual relations, but it's also related to things like morals and ethics, that a person doesn't lie, that a person doesn't cheat, he doesn't swear, he doesn't use foul language. Because those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are very conscious that they don't do anything by which their Lord will be angry with them. And this is a constant state, not just at a particular time of the day, not just at a particular month, but throughout the year. This taqwa starts right in the morning as soon as you open your eyes. Yani its practice starts as soon as the alarm goes off, as soon as you hear the adhan of Fajr. Because, when we hear the adhan of Fajr, or when the time of Fajr enters, we have one of two responses. One of two responses. Either we go back to sleep, that's one way of responding, or we respond to the call of Allah. We hear the adhan, we respond, we do dhikr, we get up, we make wudu, we pray. And while doing wudu, taqwa. While praying, taqwa. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. And this taqwa is at every moment. And then you see when we come to the breakfast table, we're talking about every day, not just in the month of Ramadan, because obviously in Ramadan you're fasting, but otherwise outside of Ramadan, you see this practice of taqwa throughout. You come to the breakfast table, are you not careful of what you eat? Not just health-wise, but also halal and haram. Isn't that taqwa? That you make sure that what you're putting in your body is permissible for you to eat and not something impermissible. Then when we go for work, we protect ourselves from wrong things. Then when we're dealing with the people around us, with the closest people, parents, siblings, spouse, there should be taqwa. That I shouldn't say anything or I shouldn't do anything that would displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why when a person does good to another, like for example, the husband says something good to his wife, it shouldn't be just to make her happy, but the intention should be to make Allah happy. Similarly, when the wife does something good to her husband, it's not only because he is good to her, but because she wants to make Allah happy. When the intention is to please Allah, when the intention is to gain the approval of Allah, then whether someone does good to you or not, your behavior towards them will always be good. Because you want Allah's pleasure, while at the same time you're fearing His displeasure. Then you see, apart from dealing with the people who are closest to us at the workplace, a person out of taqwa guards his eyes. The things that Allah has stopped me from looking at, I will not look at it. He adopts taqwa while using his computer. He adopts taqwa while looking at his phone screen. In business dealings, business practices. Taqwa is related to every aspect of our life. And subhanAllah, the amount of times the word taqwa appears in the Quran, perhaps there's no other word that comes as close. It's repeated so many times in different forms. And that is because taqwa is the means of our guidance. This is the means to success in the dunya and the akhirah. Because obviously, the one who is very conscious, the one who is treading very carefully taking his steps, saving himself from Allah's displeasure, only such a person can be successful in the hereafter. So from this, you can realize the importance of taqwa in our life. And so for attaining this taqwa, Allah makes us go through the process of fasting. Because in fasting, there are two things in particular that we're told to stay away from. Two things in particular. Number one, food and drink. Not even a single grain of food, not even a single drop of water can go down the throat when you're fasting. When the time of the fast begins, you cannot cross the limit. You cannot follow your desire, your wish. You just feel like having a little bit more, but you can't. And then throughout the day, you're so conscious, right? You're so conscious, like even while you're making wudu, you make sure the water doesn't go down your throat. This is a practice of taqwa. So two things in particular that we're told to stay away from in fasting. One is food and drink, and the second is sexual desires. Staying away from marital relationships and whatever leads to it. Now, if you think about it, food is halal otherwise, right? Food and drink is permissible otherwise. But when you're fasting, you stay away from it. And that is what teaches us taqwa. That when a person is able to stay away from halal because Allah has told him to do so, then he will not find it difficult to stay away from haram because Allah has told him to do so. And this stems from the consciousness that I don't want Allah to be angry with me. And because of that anger, I don't want to be deprived of the eternal Jannah. And so out of this thought, he lives his entire life with taqwa. And that is why it said here, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may develop taqwa. Now, fasting itself is what? Fasting is an action, right? It's a process, it's something to do. But there should be an outcome of it. Like, for example, you eat food, you chew it, you swallow it. That's a process of eating. Now, eating food is not the real objective. Okay, the real objective, we're talking about generally speaking, when you're eating, eating itself is not the real objective. The real objective of eating is to gain energy. It is to satisfy hunger. So similarly, fasting is an act of worship. It's an obligation. It's a process. But through it, some objective is to be achieved. Some objective is to be attained. And what is that objective? What's the purpose behind fasting? It's to gain the strength of taqwa. It is to gain self-control. Who is the strongest person? The strongest person is someone who can control himself. The one who can control himself, self-control. But it's interesting to note that every person has the wish and desire to control others. Isn't that so? Like, for example, you look at some mothers, sometimes how controlling they become to the extent that even after the child is married off, they still want control. But the real intelligent person, the real successful person is the one who can control himself, the one who can control his words, his anger, his emotions. And the one who can't control himself, then he can't do anything. Then he's weak. He's very light. And you see, the human being's real strength is that he saves himself from what is harmful for him. He saves himself from what is destructive. And what can be more destructive? What can be more devastating than the fire of hell? So this fasting gives us the strength to save ourselves from that fire by stopping ourselves from those things that lead to it. You know, it's like, for example, when you're driving, you have one foot on the pedal, one foot is ready on the brake, and with your hands, you're controlling the steering wheel. And that's because you don't want to hit anyone. And also because, and it's not just protecting others from harm, but you're also protecting yourself. Similarly, when you're fasting, you protect yourself from all such attractive things that can weaken you. And in a way, you're also protecting others. You yourself don't fight, nor do you let others fight with you. And that is why we learn from a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that if someone comes to fight with you, if someone comes to argue with you, then say to them, Inni sa'im, I'm fasting. Say to them, I'm fasting. So when you are preparing for the month of Ramadan, which is only a few days away, the key word to remember is taqwa. Out of the fear of Allah, staying away from those actions that displease Him, and out of His love, performing those actions that please Him, that Allah loves. So for the sake of Allah, controlling one's hunger, and also for the sake of Allah, controlling one's emotions, especially negative emotions. So fasting isn't just a physical purification. Fasting has a lot of physical benefits. But alongside that, it's also a spiritual purification. It is a spiritual cleansing. So the number one goal, the number one target for Ramadan is taqwa. Taqwa. And taqwa comes with sabr. It comes with patience. And that is when the Quran, in Surah Yusuf, ayah number 90, Allah says, إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ. Indeed, he who fears Allah and is patient, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Indeed, Allah does not allow to be lost the reward of those who do good. Taqwa and sabr. Because you cannot protect yourself without patience. And this is why the month of Ramadan is also called Shahru Sabr. the month of patience. Someone hurts you, someone misbehaves with you, someone is ignorant towards you. What stops you from responding? What enables you to say, Inni sa'im, I am fasting, I'm fasting? It's patience. Only when there's patience can a person say these words. So fasting also teaches patience. Now you see, it's in the nature of the human being that he cannot stand restrictions. He doesn't like to be restricted. And he finds it difficult to keep himself restricted for a long period of time. He feels a constriction within himself. And that is why Allah then says, أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ, a limited number of days. Fasting for a limited number of days. Because humans by nature, as we just mentioned, don't like to be restricted from things. He constantly thinks, when will I come out of it? And we can relate to this, especially in the situation that we're in right now. And otherwise, if you think about it, you're walking, you're coming, you're going, you're standing, there's no problem. But when you're seated in the car for a long time, what do you want? Or when you're in the house for a long time, what do you want? You want to come out. Similarly, you enter an elevator, you're constantly thinking, when will the door open so I can go out? This is the nature of the human being. He doesn't like restrictions. Anyhow, when a person goes through this process of restrictiveness for 30 days, he becomes used to it. It's no longer difficult. But it does seem difficult at the beginning. And that is why here Allah says, أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ. Don't worry. Don't worry, it's just a few days. It's a counted number of days. Just a few days. And subhanAllah, in the entire year, perhaps there's no other month that we count so much as we do the coming of Ramadan. And we count down to when it's going to come. 9 days, 8 days, 7 days left. And then we also count down the departing of Ramadan. How many days left? أياما معدودات, a limited number of days. فمن كان منكم مريضا, so whoever among you is ill, أو على سفر, or on a journey, during the days of fasting, فعدة من أيام أخر, then an equal number of days are to be made up. Yani there's no restriction on them because they're already restricted. One is restricted by travel and the other is restricted by sickness. So they have an allowance, they have a rukhsa that even if they don't fast, then no problem. But they have to make up the days that they have missed. That's very important. Making up the days is important. And we must remember that fasting is an obligation upon every baligh, aqil Muslim. Yani every sane Muslim past the age of puberty. So if the month is of 30 days, then 30 fasts are an obligation. If the month is of 29 days, then 29 fasts are an obligation. If someone completes all the fasts in the month of Ramadan, then well and good. Because you see, the environment, the atmosphere makes it easier for a person to fast with others. But if a person is unable to complete the fast in Ramadan because of travel or because of sickness, then completing the number is important. فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخْرٍ. So if he missed 4, then he will make up 4 later on. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. And upon those who are able to fast but with hardship, a ransom as substitute of feeding a poor person each day. Now there are 2 meanings of this. One is that this ayah was revealed at the beginning, the very beginning, when people were not used to these restrictions. So they were given the option of fasting or not. So if they're able to fast, then fast, and if not, then feed the miskin. Okay, but this was initially. Okay. Now we don't have a choice. If we're able to fast, we must fast. But we're talking about the initial period, because they were not used to the restrictions, the option was given to them. But in any case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, فَمَنْ تَطَوَّأَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. But to fast is best for you in kuntum ta'alamun, if you only knew. If you only knew what? If you knew the benefits of fasting, the reward of fasting, the blessings attained through fasting, if you knew this, you would definitely fast. So that's one meaning. And the second meaning of this ayah is that those who are able to fast, but with much difficulty, like the elderly, or the pregnant, or the breastfeeding women, or people who have similar issues, and fasting is very heavy and difficult for them. You know how for some people, dieting is a piece of cake? It's no biggie. They can diet and they have no issues. It's not difficult for them to abstain from certain foods. But for others, not eating is the most difficult thing to do in the dunya. The most difficult thing for them is to stay away from food. Some people are like that. The nature is different. But the fact of the matter is that with every difficulty, there is ease. Inna ma'al usri yusra. So when a person tolerates a restriction, then it is in that Allah makes vastness. Allah makes vastness. So anyhow, going back to the meaning of this ayah, the people referred to here are those who are able to fast, but with great difficulty. And this could be due to old age, it could be due to sickness. Then in such a situation, what should they do? They should offer a ransom, a fidya, a substitute of feeding a poor person. And this basically refers to a meal for one time, like the meal that you eat. So for example, each person can measure his own meal at dinner time. So you may have a portion of meat, salad, rice, perhaps with juice, or instead of rice, you eat wheat, bread. So you estimate the value of that meal and give equivalent amount of staple food as fidya. So one meal for each day missed. And if you want, you could even feed the miskin. You prepared a meal and you invite them to eat. And if that is not possible, you can give them a ration as well. You can give it all together, or you can give it on a daily basis. And this is in the case of those who are able to fast, but with difficulty. And we mentioned what the difficulty refers to: old age, sickness, or pregnancy, or breastfeeding. These are the scenarios where a person could fast, but there's a lot of hardship in it. Then they can offer a fidya, one meal per needy person, and that's per day. Okay, so one meal per day. Then Allah says, فَمَنْ تَطَوَّأَ خَيْرًا, and whoever volunteers excess. So as opposed to one meal, he gives two meals, morning and evening, suhoor and iftar, giving both. فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ, it is better for him. Because double benefit brings double reward. When you do more, the ajr is also more. But then, having said that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, وَأَن تَصُومُوا, but to fast, خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, is best for you, إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, if you only knew. So such people who are able to fast, but with difficulty, it is still better if they try to fast. And in this, at least make the intention. Make the intention to fast. And if you feel that you cannot continue, it's unbearable, you're feeling dizzy, you cannot continue with the fast, then you open it. Now, sometimes what happens is that a healthy person, someone who is healthy, no issues, no problems whatsoever, he thinks about the long fast and he says to himself, do I have some excuse to not fast? Can I find some justification for myself? No, don't think like that. Instead, you should think, is there a possibility for me to fast? Can I fast? Willpower is something very powerful. And you may notice that maybe the first fast is very difficult. The second fast is also difficult. The third is a little less difficult. And after a couple of days, you will begin to enjoy it. وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. The real recommendation is to fast, because there's no replacement for it. There's nothing equal to it. You can say, I won't fast and instead give fidya, and that will be equal to it? No, never. Fidya will compensate for not fasting, but it will never replace it because the benefit of fasting is not there. The benefits of fasting can only be there with fasting. So there's no alternative to this. Even though the rukhsa, the allowance is there, but fasting has its own benefits. It's only goodness upon goodness, benefit upon benefit, success upon success. وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. But to fast is best for you if you only knew. And in this, as I mentioned earlier, just make the intention, if you can, fast. And if you find it very difficult, very hard because of your situation, then you open your fast. Then don't be hard on yourself because nonetheless, the allowance is there. But as for the healthy people, they should not find excuses for themselves to not fast, especially if the days are longer. Then Allah says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran. هدى للناس, a guidance for the people. وبينات من الهدى وبينات من الهدى, and clear proofs of guidance. والفرقان, and criterion. Now the question here is, why is fasting fard in Ramadan? This is so that we may show gratitude for the blessing of Quran. The fact of the matter is that there is nothing like the Quran. Everything else is the creation. You know this huge sky that we see above us? It is Allah's creation. This vast earth beneath our feet is Allah's creation. The sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, all these things that are drawing our attention towards them. When we see the full moon, we definitely look at it. All of these are Allah's creation. The Quran, however, is Allah's kalam. And there's nothing like it. It is the kalam of Allah. It is the book of Allah. And it is a blessed book. Allah says in the Quran, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ إِلَيْكَ مُبَارَكٌ. This is a blessed book which we have revealed to you. Why was it revealed? لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ, so that they might reflect upon its verses. وَلِيَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ, and that those of understanding would be reminded. So this book is a blessed book, revealed in a blessed month, on a blessed night, a night that is better, خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. And it was revealed on Sayyid al-Anbiya, the leader of the prophets. And it was given to the best ummah. The night in which the Quran was revealed has been given virtue over all other nights. Similarly, the month of Ramadan has virtue over all other months, and that is because of the Quran. If this is the virtue, if this is the value of Laylatul Qadr, and if this is the virtue and value of Ramadan, then what would be the value of the Quran itself? What would be its virtue, its barakah, its blessing? And that is why all of us here need to ask ourselves, we need to think, how can we connect to the Quran this Ramadan? شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran. If the Quran was revealed in Ramadan, then it is in the month of Ramadan that the Quran descends on the hearts. Yes, you benefit a lot from the Quran other days, but the benefit that you get from the Quran in Ramadan, you don't feel in other days. And especially this Ramadan, as we mentioned earlier as well, Allah has given you time. Now perhaps the previous Ramadan, you didn't have time because you were working, you had other commitments, but now everyone is at home. So this time that Allah has blessed us with, use this time, use this opportunity to connect to the Quran as much as possible. Through Taraweeh prayers, Qiyamul Layl, recitation of the Quran, and more importantly, understanding the Quran. Yes, these other things are beneficial. Reciting the Quran is beneficial. Memorizing it is beneficial. But the real objective is to understand the book of Allah. Because this book is hudal linnas, a guidance for the people. And when does a person get guidance from anything? Now, for example, you have the best GPS system installed in your car, but you don't switch it on. You never use it. Or even after switching it on, you don't put on the voice. Then what happens? Just by looking at the map, sometimes you don't reach the destination. However, when the voice is turned on, that voice that speaks, turn right, in 300 meters, turn left, then it's easier for you and you reach where you intend to go, right? Otherwise, the map is there in front of you, but when there's no voice, you're not listening, you lose the way and sometimes you go somewhere else. Similarly, in life, the human being has many questions, confusions, doubts. He thinks, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why do issues face me in life? Why are my children like this? Why is my husband like that? Why are these things happening? Why is there a lockdown? People have these questions, or even deeper questions as to where did I come from? And what will happen to me after I die? Who can give you the answers to all these questions? The one who created you. The one who created you. You know how, a very small example, when a person goes for counseling, and when you go for counseling, you get one advice. You go to another counselor, they give you another advice. You go to your friend, she gives you a third advice. You ask your mother and she says something completely different and you're confused. Who should I listen to? Who should I not listen to? They all love me. They all want good for me. What should I do? But remember, no one loves us more than our Khaliq. No one loves us more than our Creator. Which is why, as a proof of His love for us, He has given us this book. He has given us the Quran. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book about which there's no doubt, a guidance for those conscious of Allah, a guidance for those who have taqwa. Ramadan and taqwa, guidance and taqwa. Fasting leads to taqwa, and Quran leads to guidance. And you will get more of this guidance in the month of Ramadan when you're in the state of attaining taqwa. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى, and clear proofs of guidance. This guidance that Allah has revealed is very clear. It's not some ambiguous guidelines, but rather it is the most perfect and complete instruction and guidance that Allah has sent down. What furqan and criterion? Furqan from farq. Farq means to separate, to distinguish. So this Quran distinguishes and separates between truth and falsehood, right and wrong, good and bad, beneficial and what is harmful. The Quran guides us. It shows us the way. It gives us insight. It gives the person conscious. It is that light that tells you what to do and what not to do. It tells you what will lead to Allah's pleasure and what will lead to His anger, so that you pursue His pleasure and you stay away from those actions that lead to His displeasure. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. So whoever sights the new moon of the month, let him fast it. The one who witnesses the month of Ramadan should fast it. So this shows that it is an obligation to fast in the month of Ramadan. And it also shows the importance of sighting the moon. Okay, so the first thing that we learned here, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ, that the most important thing to do in the month of Ramadan is fasting. You could be reading Quran all day long and standing in prayer all night long, but if you don't fast, then it's not the same thing. The benefit of Quran, dua, qiyam is all with fasting, which is why fasting is mentioned here again. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. So whoever sights the new moon of the month, let him fast it. And the second point, shahida means to witness, to sight. So this shows that the Ramadan moon should be sighted. And when the moon is sighted, then fasting will begin. And there's also a dua to be read when sighting the moon. So learn this dua so that you can read it when you sight the moon, not just the moon of the month of Ramadan, as a matter of fact, the moon of every month, because we need goodness and blessings in every month. So this dua is not just specific to the month of Ramadan, but it is to be recited whenever you sight the new moon for every month. And basically benefit from this dua. And also be grateful to Allah when you see the moon. Be grateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you time, He's given you opportunity. And at that time, you can also make some other masnoon du'as, asking Allah to make this month easy for you. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla, wa anta taj'alul hazna idha shi'ta sahla. So ask Allah to create ease for you. That, oh Allah, make fasting easy for me. Oh Allah, make all my responsibilities easy along with fasting. Make my qiyam easy for me. Make sadaqah easy. Grant me the ability to fast. Because when there's ease, then you won't even know it. And at the end of Ramadan, you will wish that the entire year was Ramadan. How everything fell into place. How all your targets got met. Because otherwise, what happens? In other days, so we're talking about other days outside of Ramadan, you're sitting on the dinner table, and by the time you wrap up, so much time has gone by. But when you're having dinner in Ramadan, quickly you wrap up everything. We have to do our prayers. Then when the time of suhoor comes, bus stop, time is over. You become very time conscious. Very, very time conscious. And this doesn't happen in other days. In other days, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and we don't even realize so much time has gone. But in Ramadan, because you're controlling your habits, you save so much time, and so you're able to do so many good deeds. So in Ramadan, you're reading more Quran compared to other days, you're doing more sadaqah, more qiyam, and it's blessings upon blessings, and this is out of Allah's fadl. It is a huge mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, and whoever is ill or on a journey, فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, then an equal number of other days. Again, this is repeated. The same point was repeated earlier, is repeated again for emphasis. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ, Allah intends for you ease. وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ, and He does not intend for you hardship. How loving is our Lord. How caring is our Rabb. He wants ease for us. Allah could give whatever command He wishes. He could put us in hardship, but no, He made ease for us. وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةِ, and wants for you to complete the period in the month of Ramadan by fasting all the days or completing the number of days by making up the missed fasts. Okay, and in this, there's no restriction as to when you make up the fast, in the summer or in the winter, so long as you make them up before the next Ramadan. So this is also out of Allah's fadl that He has made it easy for us. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ, and to glorify Allah for that to which He has guided you. The fact of the matter is that if we actually knew the benefits of fasting, we would just continue to declare the greatness of Allah. Allahu Akbar. And then also when Ramadan comes to an end, we read the takbirat because this was not our kamal. It wasn't our own efforts that we controlled ourselves so much. When you go on a diet, when you're on a diet where you refrain from eating certain types of foods, somewhere or the other you cheat, right? You sneak in a sugary treat, you have a piece of cake. But when you're fasting, you don't cheat. So this tawfiq is from who? It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So after fasting for 30 days, no person should be proud that I fasted 30 days. I'm so righteous. And look at those people who didn't fast or they didn't pray at night. No. After doing all these good deeds, glorify Allah abundantly. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Walillahi alhamd. ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون. And perhaps you will be grateful. Grateful for the tawfiq, for the ability of doing good. Grateful for the revelation of the Quran. Grateful for receiving guidance. Grateful for opportunity to do good. Gratitude all the time, even when we're not eating and drinking. Shukr. Because when we're fasting, we also think about those who have nothing to eat. There's so many people in this world who have nothing to eat. So when a person goes through the heat of thirst and hunger in Ramadan, and especially when you see people who are doing labor work, hard labor, and they're still fasting despite the hard work that they're doing with no air conditioning, no electricity, no fans, no shade, then really fasting for them is so difficult. When you think about this, then feelings of shukr develop in you. This is وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Perhaps you will be grateful. And then you see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you freedom for 11 months, right? 11 months, you eat, you drink, you sleep whenever you want to. But then 1 month of the year in which you can improve yourself and develop new habits, good habits like praying tahajjud. And then the habit of even fasting afterwards. So even after the month of Ramadan, fasting Mondays and Thursdays, or the 3 days in the middle of every month. So the strength of continuing good habits is developed in the month of Ramadan. So when you get this ability, when you get this tawfiq to do good, then shukr, be grateful. And so many things, so many qualities develop within us by virtue of this month. Taqwa, guidance, sense of Allah's greatness, sense of gratitude to Allah. And then in between, furqan, criterion, the difference between good and bad. And this too is through reading the Quran. By having a connection with the Quran. And the way of the Prophet ﷺ was that in the month of Ramadan, he would revise the Quran with Jibreel. He would revise it with Jibreel. Whatever was revealed to him of the Quran would be revised every Ramadan. And in the last Ramadan of his life, he revised it twice with Jibreel. So as opposed to reading it alone, he would listen and also recite to Jibreel. So in light of this and following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we too, inshallah, will be going through the entire Quran this Ramadan, Fahm Quran, 1 juz per day. And with the fadl of Allah, we will try to understand what Allah has told us in this book of guidance. And inshallah, from every juz, we will also extract 3 action points for ourselves. And this is an excellent opportunity for us to know what Allah has told us in the Quran. So I pray that Allah enables us to learn His book this Ramadan, to understand it, to apply it, and that Allah helps us through this journey. He allows us to reach the completion. He accepts these efforts from us. He accepts these efforts from you, and He rewards you as well as your families for their support, and that He guides us to the ways of goodness in this world and in the hereafter, and that He blesses us with taqwa. May Allah enable us to realize the full benefits of the month of Ramadan. So here, inshallah, we will conclude, and I hope to see all of you tomorrow. Inshallah, tomorrow we will begin Fahm al-Quran with Juz 1, and inshallah, we'll be going through the pertinent points, the lessons that we learn from the Juz, and so that we can revise it, go through it, implement it, and also share it with others, and maximize our time in this blessed month. Jazakumullah khairan to everyone. So inshallah, I hope to see you tomorrow. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.